Rain needles the cafe window relentlessly while Aria's charcoal drags slow gray strokes across damp paper in her sketchbook. Her mother's faded hospital bracelet still looped tightly around her wrist like an ugly, unhealed bruise that refuses to fade. Outside on the slick pavement, Luca pauses abruptly under his sleek black umbrella that costs more than her entire month's rent, his driver idling patiently in the sleek black car behind him, his sharp eyes habitually scanning the crowded street for any potential threats that never actually materialize until they unexpectedly land on her, fixating on the careless smudge of charcoal dusting her pale cheek, the subtle tremble in her full lower lip as she bites it in concentration. And in that instant, the chaotic city noise all around them collapses into absolute silence, reduced to nothing but the pounding of a single, shared heartbeat echoing between them. He does not smile or acknowledge it in any way. She does not blink or look away. Even once, the relentless water rivers down the cold glass separating their worlds, yet something intangible and electric crosses that barrier anyway, warm and undeniably dangerous all at once. The tired barista finally calls out last orders in a bored voice. Aria reluctantly closes her sketchbook with a soft snap. Luca methodically folds his umbrella with deliberate precision, and though the rain continues its merciless falling, the air trapped inside her narrow ribs has already shifted. Irrevocably forever, later, she tries desperately to convince herself that it was only a fleeting stare from a stranger, nothing more. Yet when she finally steps out into the biting downpour, her pulse betrays her completely. Answering back with the vivid image of his unnamed face burned into her mind, and deep down she knows, without needing any words to explain it, that some of the most devastating collisions in life begin long before any two bodies ever actually manage to touch. She didn't know his name, but something in his eyes felt like a warning and a promise at once. 3 long, restless nights later, Aria still inexplicably tastes the metallic tang of storm clouds on her tongue every single time she dares to close her weary eyes, while far across the sprawling city in his penthouse office, Luca obsessively replays the grainy black and white security footage captured at that pharmacy, fixating on the image of the girl desperately reaching for a box of painkillers, pausing the video repeatedly, rewinding it frame by excruciating frame, pausing again until the pixels start to blur hopelessly into abstraction. Fate conspires against them once more when they collide unexpectedly at the harshly lit all-night pharmacy where the flickering fluorescent lights make every single person inside look irrevocably half-dead and hollow-eyed. She urgently needs more tablets to ease her mother's agonizing midnight aches that keep them both awake, while he actually needs absolutely nothing but pretends meticulously to study the endless rows of colorful vitamin bottles just to linger. Their fingers suddenly collide over the exact same small white box on the shelf, skin sparking violently like flint struck against steel in the pitch dark. He murmurs in that low, gravelly voice, "You're always turning up exactly where I am no matter what," and she fires back coincidence even as every drop of blood singing through her veins screams out the blatant truth that it's anything but. They stand frozen there in the frigid, sterile aisle, exchanging terse single word sentences that somehow manage to carry entire raging oceans of unspoken emotion beneath their surface, and when she finally turns to leave, he watches her fading reflection intently in the grimy glass door until it completely vanishes from view. She climbs aboard the rattling late-night bus, repeating over and over in her mind like a desperate mantra, "He's nobody to you. He's absolutely nobody." But her defiant heart climbs stubbornly into her throat and flat-out refuses to ever climb back. Down again, she told herself it was nothing at all, but her heartbeat refused to listen for even one goddamn second. 7 endless days of heavy, oppressive silence finally shatter to pieces when the hospital mails her a crisp official bill boldly stamped, paid in full in thick red ink right across the top, with the donor listed cryptically as completely anonymous. Fueled by pure fury, Aria storms the towering glass skyscraper of his corporate empire just as dusk begins to settle over the city, her soaked raincoat dripping icy water all over the spotless marble lobby floor, and she bursts into his massive corner office to find Luca seated calmly behind a desk as wide and imposing as an ancient battlefield, She slaps the crumpled receipt down hard on the polished mahogany surface. I am not, and will never be your pathetic charity case. And he counters coolly without even glancing up from his papers, I don't give charity to anyone. I give people choices they can't refuse. His voice so unnervingly calm it feels like it could slice straight through flesh. She accuses him bitterly of trying to buy her eternal gratitude like some cheap commodity. He fires back that her stubborn pride is the real villain here, actively starving her own dying mother in the process. And their vicious words ricochet wildly off the walls until the entire vast room suddenly feels suffocatingly too damn small to contain them. Then her voice finally cracks raw and broken on the single desperate word, please. And in that vulnerable instant, something deep inside his armored chest fractures, audibly too for the very first time. He rises slowly and steps deliberately close enough that she can smell the faint trace of crisp hospital soap still clinging stubbornly to her exhausted skin. But she refuses absolutely to step back even an inch. And the narrow charged space, still separating their bodies, turns instantly molten with barely restrained heat. He hates how much she makes him feel dangerously, inescapably human again. Harsh morning tabloid headlines scream in bold black letters, Billionaire ruthlessly toying with desperate charity case for sport. Accompanied by a grainy paparazzi photograph capturing Luca slipping out of an exclusive midnight gala with a stunning woman draped in shimmering red silk clinging possessively to his arm. The crowded public bus jolts violently over a pothole. Aria's phone screen suddenly burns like acid against her palm, and in that devastating moment something fragile and precious deep inside her folds up quietly like wet paper dissolving in the rain. That same night, without a single word of warning, she deliberately leaves his ridiculously expensive cashmere coat draped carefully over the thin plastic chair in the hospital waiting room. A short handwritten note tucked deep inside the pocket. Thank you for everything, but we're completely done now, and walks out the automatic doors before he even has a chance to read it aloud in that deep voice of his. He discovers the coat later, still carrying the lingering warmth of her body heat like a ghost, pulls out the crumpled note and reads those 3 devastating words exactly 17 agonizing times in a row. Then crumples the paper so viciously hard in his fist that all his knuckles drain stark white from the pressure. Pride tastes bitterly metallic on his tongue like fresh blood. She left without ever once turning back to look. But her silent tears were infinitely louder than his shattered pride could ever hope to be. Precisely 32 excruciating days dragged by, filled with city noise that now sounds perpetually hollow and mocking to their raw ears. Arya obsessively paints haunting canvases using only deep cobalt blues and cold ghostly ash grays, while Luca ruthlessly fires 3 different assistants in a single week just for daring to accidentally breathe her name aloud in his presence, even as they continue to unconsciously orbit the exact same familiar streets night after night, yet somehow never quite manage to fatally collide again. He deliberately passes by that same corner cafe promptly at 6:17 every single evening without fail, silently counts slowly to 10 inside his head each time, then forces his feet to keep relentlessly walking onward. She keeps the single unopened box of painkillers he once bought for her positioned prominently on her cluttered bedroom shelf like some sacred, untouchable relic from a lost civilization. Midnight inevitably finds him alone on the windswept penthouse balcony for the 9th consecutive time, methodically deleting her phone number from his contacts list yet again with shaking fingers, while midnight simultaneously finds her curled up small in the darkness, endlessly tracing the phantom imprint of his cashmere coat still lingering faintly on her aching shoulders. He deleted her number yet again in a fit of false resolve, but he could never manage to delete the overwhelming feeling she left behind. Arya throws herself into weeks of painstakingly delicate work restoring a forgotten old church mural, her calloused hands permanently steeped in shimmering gold leaf pigment now. Her bruised heart slowly but surely learning the profound truth that even the most shattered, irreparably broken things in this world can somehow learn to glow radiantly again under the right kind of patient light. Meanwhile, Luca decisively sells off the entire gaudy company owned by that scheming Gala girl from the Scandalous photo, then quietly wires every last stolen cent directly to overflowing oncology research funds across the country without fanfare, before sitting down alone to compose a raw, unfiltered letter to Arya that he ultimately burns page by deliberate page in the penthouse fireplace. One fragile dawn breaks over the wide gray river, and the entire sky unexpectedly turns the softest shade of hopeful peach, coinciding perfectly with the moment she finally completes transforming the murals. Final falling raindrop into a dazzling, radiant prism bursting with inner light. One heavy, dusky evening finds him standing utterly alone in the echoing emptiness of his massive boardroom, staring at his own distorted reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows, and for the very first time he admits aloud to the ghosts, "I was always the real goddamn storm that destroyed us both." Sometimes true healing begins precisely the moment you finally stop desperately running from yourself. The elegant hospital charity gala unfolds under softly glowing crystal chandeliers, Arya's newly restored mural unveiled dramatically as the undisputed centerpiece hanging proudly beneath those warm ambient lights. She turns gracefully mid-conversation, and suddenly Luca is simply standing right there waiting patiently, his silk tie casually loosened just enough to reveal vulnerability, his dark eyes silently asking for permission before he dares speak. The entire chattering crowd around them immediately fades away into meaningless watercolor blurs. He says, "I'm so deeply sorry for everything," first in a voice rough with genuine emotion. She answers quietly back, "I was unnecessarily cruel to you too, even when you were trying to help." And their simple sentences land between them as gentle and forgiving as the first snowflakes of winter. There is no explosive shouting or dramatic accusations this time around, only the intimate shared breath hovering thickly across the scant inches still, separating their aching bodies. He doesn't beg desperately on his knees this time around. He simply said in that steady voice that he never once stopped caring about her, not for a single solitary second. They begin meeting faithfully at seedy 2 a.m. diners and secluded river benches under starless skies, trading their most buried personal truths back and forth like precious life-giving oxygen during a suffocating drought. He discovers with quiet wonder that her genuine laugh actually possesses 3 distinct, beautiful pitches depending on her mood, while she learns with equal fascination that his steady left hand always betrays him with a faint telltale tremble whenever he's even slightly tempted to lie. One fateful night the familiar rain returns, but this time soft and tender as genuine forgiveness itself, and he gently kisses her smooth forehead with no trace of hunger whatsoever. Only the profound safety of finally coming home after years lost at sea. Their intimate conversations stretch luxuriously onward until the first hesitant rays of sunrise paint the horizon. As they meticulously map out every single one of their old jagged scars, naming them honestly and forgiving them completely, it wasn't the wild, consuming fire that nearly destroyed them anymore. It was warm, steady sunlight now.